Hello and welcome. So we're doing another live Q&A. Reason being, I had both boys with me this afternoon all day basically, so it was impossible for me to get downstairs and actually prepare the video that is up next, which will be a deep value plays that are not rookies. That's what's lined up next. But just because I know it is fantasy season, I know times are, it's crunch time. So we're going to do a little bit of Q&A, and then I do have a private consultation to take care of. So I will have to cut it off a little bit shorter than what it was last time. But yeah, let's take a look at some questions. Just give me 1 second to make sure everything's set up, and then I can get the chat open and start taking some live questions. We'll start with some of the older questions that we have here. So just give me 1 second. Bear with me. Sorry about this. Alrighty. So Amar asks, 18-team league, William Karlsson or Krejci? So that's an interesting question. I think the Krejci one has just a little bit more risk baked in, just because of the fact that he wasn't here last year. He was overseas, and he is typically a very consistent player. Let me just bring up his file. David Krejci. So this is obviously not last year's data. So he starts in 2021. 0.86 point per game average, 8 goals, 44 points in 51 games. So not bad at all there. That's pretty good. The shot numbers are very low, 1.6, 1.3. He's not a shooter. So if you're looking for shots, don't do that. But very good on the power play, 0.31 power play points per game. Now, I don't know if he'll get that again. I don't know what the power play is going to look like with both him and Bergeron healthy, without Marchand healthy. They're probably going to try some different looks. They don't have McAvoy. They don't have Grzelcyk. So there will be some juggling going on. But with those injuries, I would expect him to get power play time. Maybe he'll see the point on the power play a little bit. But typically, he doesn't shoot. The plus minus is usually pretty good. Plus 16. Plus 14, plus 7, plus 10. The power play numbers, that 0.31 was the highest in the last 4 years for Krejci, and that was before he went overseas. But I think there is an opportunity for him this year. Let me just check on William Karlsson. And I don't know why it is not letting me find William Karlsson. I found Eric Melker. What a great first name that is. William Karlsson. So much lower point per game average. 0.71 5-year average for William Karlsson, 0.52 last year. So you'd be banking on a bounce back from Karlsson. Missed a little bit of time last season. A lot of Vegas Golden Knights missed some time last year. A little bit more shot coverage, 2.01 shots per game. Plus minus was just a little bit above even at a plus 3. 0.04 on the power play, so he does nothing there. 3 power play points last year. Not much in the way of hits. So I would definitely say Krejci. I'm just going to respond right here. See if he's watching. If you are watching, Amar, hopefully you just got the breakdown. And if you didn't see this live, it's the first question, so you should be able to grab it really quick. So the next, this is not really a question, I don't think. But Saros is a tremendous goalie option, and his backup is Lankinen. So, yeah, I don't see Lankinen taking away too many starts. I think that's a perfect situation for Saros because if you're looking to own Saros, The thing that is enticing about Saros is, for me, the fact that he's going to be playing behind McDonough, Yossi, and Ekholm for likely 50 minutes a game. There will only be a short window where they're not playing, one of those three excellent defensemen in front of him. So the defense improved in Nashville, and Nashville was a sneaky good team last year. And I didn't really realize, especially offensively, because a lot of guys went off, and it didn't seem like it was going to be, a fantasy, place to mine value, but apparently it is. So, now we do have some questions coming in live, so I will switch the tab over here, and we'll go to the live chat. Is Gooley Cider 2.0? And tell me why the answer is yes. I can't tell you why, because there's no data on Gooley at the NHL level. I think, if I remember correctly, he's a very good skater, very big frame, and I'm assuming he's going to get a ton of opportunity in Montreal because they just don't have a lot on the back end. But, they did get rid of some guys. Petrie moved on. And I think that Joel Edmondson, if he's healthy, I think that might help. But it's not going to cover up a lot. And, David Savard, if he's still anything close to what he used to be, especially in Tampa, that could help stabilize the D a little bit. But there's some opportunity for a guy like Gooley. He's 20 years old, 6'2", 205. So I wasn't wrong in thinking that he was relatively large. Then if you look at the stats last year, point per game defenseman for the Edmonton Oil Kings, and then almost a point per game with Prince Albert. So, and then he was a monster in the playoffs, 16 points in 19 games, and that's what you like to see. I thought of him more as a two-way defenseman than an offensive guy, but the offense seems to be there for sure. The only thing I'll say, and I was mentioning this literally probably an hour ago or less in the Patreon group, it's very difficult to find a rookie defenseman that becomes fantasy relevant right off the bat, and that's pretty much what Cider did last year, and I think that's extremely rare. The only guy I can think of off the top of my head is Thomas Chabot. When he was a rookie, I think he had that 72-point season, and then since then he's regressed heavily from that, and I think that was a case where he got a ton of opportunity as well. And so, I'm not going to sit here and say Gooley is Cider 2.0 because what Cider did is crazy. And not just the fact that he was fantasy relevant, but he was hitting and knocking grown men on their ass, as a young guy in the league is very difficult to do. So I don't think Gooley will be getting the category coverage that Cider did. I would maybe think that the offensive upside is there. And I do like Montreal's offense. So, yeah, let's hope for Gooley, but I typically stay away from rookies in fantasy just because it's almost impossible for them to stay consistent over a full season and be productive on your fantasy team. Now, if you're in a deeper league, that's different, but for a 12-team, 10-team, you usually stay away from rookies. What do people mean when they say someone had a really high shooting percentage and that is unsustainable? For example, Duchesne. So basically, the thing on Duchesne, what I saw, his shooting percentage, so that's obviously how often he scores when he shoots. So he'll take X amount of shots to score a goal. So his percentage was in the high single digits, 7 to 9% range for most of his career. And then I think last year it was like 18%. So that's, when you're, as far as analyzing data, you want to look for outliers. You want to look for things that stick out and then look for an explanation as to why they stick out. I don't know if there is an explanation for Duchesne as to why he just started shooting and scoring more, except for the fact that, as I've mentioned in literally every video, scoring was up last year. And I think using 119 goalies last season in the NHL probably helped a guy like Duchesne. I don't know, but just for example, a team like New Jersey went through like 7 goalies and they had a team combined save percentage below 900. So things like that happened last year that I don't think normally do happen, and that might have increased his shooting percentage. But typically when people have, it's just one of those things where I don't think it is a be all end all statistic, because some guys don't shoot for volume. Like Panarin doesn't shoot for volume. He shoots when he knows he's going to score. Like he does it. His shooting percentage is usually a little bit higher, I would assume. I don't have it in front of me, but I would assume that guys who try to pick corners are a little bit more accurate, and they try to pick and choose when they shoot. And for Duchesne, I do think that is unsustainable. He's usually in that 7 to 9% range. So I'm not high on Duchesne this year, but I'm getting there with Nashville. So I could see the case. He's going pretty deep in drafts. He's not being overdrafted. Is it possible Marner can actually get dual eligibility? So that's interesting to me, because if he does, I grabbed him in our data draft league yesterday morning. So if he does, that's a huge help for me, because everybody sniped the D I was looking for. So I think I don't know what the threshold would be, because it hasn't happened since either Brent Burns or Dustin Byfuglien. And I remember it was a while ago at this point when Burns was actually playing forward. And I don't know what the criteria were for Byfuglien when he was playing, because he was mainly a defenseman in Winnipeg. I mean, I do remember him spending some time up front occasionally with the Thrashers and then a little bit with Winnipeg, but he was definitely a forward in Chicago, and then that transition to D might have been where he got the dual eligibility. I just don't see them using Marner on D enough to warrant that. I would think that maybe it's on the power play. I don't know, because I like Riley on the power play there, so I don't have the quote in front of me, but I don't know what the thinking is behind just throwing him out there, unless it's late in games. They need to tie the game up or something like that. Or maybe it's just the fact that you're paying him $11 million, so you want him on the ice a little bit more. But if he gets that dual eligibility, that will definitely help you. And I ended up getting him at the back. So I had the first overall pick, and I got him at low 20s with the other end of the snake. So if he falls there and he ends up dual eligible, that would be huge. But I have no idea what goes into that thought process, and I assume that would be different between ESPN and Yahoo too. I don't think it's going to be a universal thing. Asked about Tage Thompson in the comments last night. Thanks for responding. Think he's going to be pretty solid despite the plus minus. I'd like to go there too. I'd like to believe that. He was very good last year. The major problem that I see is, number one, he's never done anything like that in his career before. Let me bring up his file just to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. Not Nate Thompson. So Tage Thompson, if you look at, here's his past 5 seasons in terms of points per game. So we'll start oldest and work our way up. So 0.21, 0.18, 0.36, 0.87. So that's why I think it's unsustainable. He was technically trending in the right direction for, the 0.18 to 0.36 and then up again, but that is 0.46 points per game above his average, which was 0.41 over the 4 years of data that I have for him. And then on top of that, if you look at his goal scoring, 0.07 goals per game, 0.1 goal per game, 0.21 goals per game, 0.48 goals per game. So he is trending in the right direction still. But then if you just look at the raw numbers, so 3 goals in 41, 7 goals in 65, 8 goals in 38 games, and then 38 goals in 78 games. And on top of that, last year he was 3 position eligible in fantasy. So he was all kinds of value if you could find him on the wire. I just don't think that that's going to hold up, despite the fact that Buffalo is getting better. And I think that they, he has more pieces around him to help him do that. And I think he definitely found some chemistry with a guy like Jeff Skinner, who came alive in the second half a little bit last year. And Jeff Skinner could be a really nice deep play because he still gets a ton of shot volume. So if you're looking for Tage Thompson without necessarily the same pullback in terms of his production, maybe go Skinner, because you're going to get a lot more shot coverage. So Skinner, his 5-year average was 0.56, and he overperformed that, and he had a 0.78 point per game last year, but he averages 3.275 shots per game, and he's currently not being drafted in a 12-team league. He might not even be drafted in a 14-team league. So that might get you some Thompson exposure if you're looking for that. Can he be the starting center? I definitely think he can. He's massive, and he didn't look out of place at center. He looked very, especially with a bigger guy, if he can win draws and stuff like that, that's all you really need, and then you got to help out down low. But wherever they're using him, whatever their ice time rollout for him is, it was working last year. I hope they do that again. Who to pick up on waivers after the draft? So that depends on a lot of factors. Yeah, I mean, if you like, if you need a specific category coverage, like I would look at my team after the draft and say, oof, maybe I'm a little light on hits, maybe I'm a little light on shots, and then go to the waiver wire and pick up a guy for that. I did that in the data draft league that we just drafted yesterday. I had Marchand, who I threw immediately on the IR, and then I only had 2 goalies, so I went and picked up Grubauer off the waiver wire. That's why I didn't draft him, because he ended up falling through, and I knew that there was a couple of goalies that were going to fall through. So that was a case where I knew wasn't a weakness. I had 2 very good goalies, but I ended up I had Jari and Sorokin. So I felt pretty comfortable in terms of the production that I was going to get from those guys, but I just wanted that third goalie. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll play the schedule. But yeah. Congrats on the first 1K. I appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody who has been a part of this at all. If you've subscribed, if you've watched videos, if you're part of the Patreon group, thank you. I just hit 1,000 subs, so I'm just, waiting by the mailbox every day for a huge wad of cash to show up. I'll let you guys know when that comes. It should be a big white bag of money with the little $sign on the front. I'll take a picture of it if it does come through. But if not, then I've had a lot of fun growing this channel, and we're going to continue into the season. There's going to be a little bit more of a schedule to it. Usually what I'm thinking for the season activities is covering the happenings before the weekend. So on a Friday, maybe I'll do a video covering what's happened thus far in the week and what to look for on the weekend. And then definitely want to do a Sunday video to try get everybody prepared for the schedule of the week coming up. And then maybe one more video in the middle of the week, maybe a Q&A, kind of answer some questions. But we got some things planned, some things lined up. And yeah, I want to thank every one of you for playing a part in this. Something that I've mentioned it in the Patreon group. If this channel can possibly become financially viable, what it's going to do is allow me to be here with my kids as they grow up. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old. And when my 3-year-old was younger, I was working a lot. I was on the road, and it was very difficult. That was when COVID hit. So the fact that, if this can become viable, if I can potentially be there with my kids, that's the most important thing to me in my life. And I would be eternally grateful to every one of you for helping to make that happen. So thank you very much from everybody that's been a part of this so far. Peter says, so I accidentally drafted Pasta, Marchand, and Bergeron. Should I keep all 3 or try to trade one? I noticed Boston has the best schedule during my league's playoffs, so maybe not, if that's what you're noticing there. And I don't know which one you'd trade. I guess the smart thing to do, if you really didn't want to keep all of them, hold on to Marchand on the IR, and then maybe the week before he comes back, trade him, because then people will start talking about him, and you can maybe get an equal, maybe not as good ceiling type of player with Marchand, but you'll get something productive in return, and then you won't have to take on the risk of his double hip surgery. That could be the play, because the name value will start to hype up as he's getting closer to coming back. And that should be around Thanksgiving. So if you wanted to drop one of them, that would be the play, I would think. Pasta's a right wing. He's more valuable, and he's a goal scorer. So he's one of 7 40-goal pace right wingers. So I would definitely hold on to him. And Bergeron is a shot volume monster, over 4 shots a game, so I would keep him as well. But that could be a nice little trade chip. Can I rate your team? Matthews, Reinhart, Panarin, Gensel, Kachuk, Rust, Ekblad, Letang, Krug, Hannafin, Bunting, Kyrou, Teravainen, Keller, Nelson, Demko, Hellebuck, Swayman. It sounds like a 10-team league to me because that looks stacked. I guess Reinhardt's playing as a center, but he's dual eligible. Panarin, I'm guessing you got Matthews first and Panarin second, and then maybe Ekblad third. And then if you got Kachuk later, that's decent value for Kachuk. If you got any of the other guys I mentioned just before that, after where I said you got them, then that's incredible value. I like Gensel, goal-scoring winger. I like Rust. I picked him up on my team. Teravainen's a great power play dual-eligible winger. And then the goaltending looks really good. You're going to get a ton of starts out of these guys, and then Swayman's going to have at least the good save percentage and goals against, if not the starts. Who are my favorite waiver ads on Yahoo? You know what? Seeing as how I'm in a giving mood, I will ruin the reveal of the video that I was working on. So you saw the rookie candidates that I laid out last time. I'll just highlight this question so people can see it. So a couple guys that I have. So one of the guys I'm paying attention to in training camp is Phil Kessel. He's not being drafted at all. He doesn't shoot the puck anymore, apparently, or at least he didn't in Arizona. But currently, he's playing on a line with Jack Eichel, and if that's going to be the line, then you want Kessel. He became more of an assist guy, but he's a very good assist guy, despite the fact that he was used to be a 40-goal scorer and known for his shot. But he is a really good setup guy, and if he's playing with Eichel, I could see Eichel going off for 40 goals and carrying Kessel with him. So he'd be a guy. Everybody seems to have forgotten about Dadonov. He went to Montreal, and I like Montreal's forward group. I don't necessarily love their D, but the forward group is much improved. And Dadonov, after that whole trade debacle last year, he kind of turned it on and almost got Vegas into the playoffs. They were pretty close, and he had some really nice performances. He's typically a 30-goal scorer too, so he would be a guy to look out for. I'm a guy who's always been waiting on Nico Hischier, and the problem with him is health. So he just has not stayed healthy, but if he can, I like the Devils offense. I think that's improved at this point. And then, he's probably going to get some time, maybe it depends on either Bratt or Holtz, somebody like that, depending on who plays with Hughes. But Hischier, he's a good two-way centerman. If you have face-off wins, that's a guy to look for as well. Speaking of face-off wins, JG Pageau, and if you have short-handed goals as well, JG Pageau is good for that as well. And sticking with that theme, Jordan Stahl's another face-off win type of guy. I had him 2 years ago. He was very good. I think he ended up being a top 70 fantasy player in 2021. Just didn't happen for him last year, and he is getting a little bit older. But if you have face-off wins, he's definitely an option. Kevin LeBanc, power play one in San Jose. Somebody's got to score goals in San Jose, and there's only 5 players that can do it. So Erik Karlsson would be a play. Kevin LeBanc would be a play. If Logan Couture is there deeper in your draft, he usually makes it through a 12-team draft. He's a guy I'd look at. Sticking with some of the themes I've talked about before, Philip Deneau. I've mentioned before, Trevor Moore, Deneau, and Arvidsson were the 10th best scoring line in the league last year, and they're probably going to stay together. So he was very productive, especially, I believe, in the second half last season. If I'm reading my notes correctly, 17 goals in 38 games in the second half. So he kind of turned it on, and that line was money. If you could find Trevor Moore on the waiver wire last year, he was money for you. I just mentioned Jeff Skinner. If you've been burned by that before, then don't go back to him, but he looks like he's starting to find his game again. I mentioned Clayton Keller in the last live stream. If you need somebody deeper than that, Nick Schmaltz is very Keller dependent, and I highlighted him as an overdraft candidate. I also said that nobody's going to draft him, so he probably will fall through your draft if you're looking for. I know he's a center. I don't know if he's dual eligible. And then another guy, Brock Nelson. So his nickname is Brocktober. He usually goes off in the first month of the season, which is obviously coming up now. And then he had 37 goals last year, which was a career high, but he's usually a 30 goal, high 20s, low 30 goal, set your watch kind of guy. And then another guy that everybody seems to have forgotten about is Brendan Gallagher. I just want to quickly look up his stats because he used to be a shot volume monster. So Brendan Gallagher, his point totals they took a huge dip last year. If you want to buy into that bounce back, so he's a .62 point per game average down to .42 last year. Missed some time over the last couple seasons. So 56 games last year, 35 in the 56 game season the year before, and then 59 before that. He's had some injury troubles, and that might be the reason not to go to him. But if you're looking for a deep shot volume guy, again, numbers were down last year, but even in a down year, 2.53 shots per game. He's been as high as 3.83 shots per game just 2 years ago. So his average used to be in that 3.5 range for shots, and now he's at least a shot per game lower. But I would look for a bounce back because there's a lot of guys to work with in that offense. So if you need a deep shot guy and you don't like Jeff Skinner, maybe Brendan Gallagher. I would have thought he hit a little bit more than he does. 0.96 last year, 1.31 the year before that. His high in the last 5 years was 1.53. So maybe some coverage there. But just a couple of guys to give you for some waiver wire pickups. Seem to be very few Kraken players drafted. Are we overlooking? Yeah, you definitely are overlooking Seattle players. I would expect, the more I watch Beniers, the more impressed I am. There's just no data on him, so I completely, it was a brain fart. I completely left him out of the rookie video because I guess he did play last year, and I must have just thought, I don't know what I was thinking. He would have easily been on that rookies to watch list, pretty high. He had 9 points in 10 games last season with a small sample size, and then he had 4 points on the power play, or 0.4 power play points per game. So, and he seems to not slow down as far as training camp this year. So he would be a guy. I would also maybe look at Bjorkstrand, just coming over from Columbus. Depending on what they do in terms of centers, I like Jared McCann. He's another guy that's usually, fantasy relevant, and he doesn't get a ton of love in the drafts. So those are three guys you could look at. I'm just looking up Jared McCann. So McCann, 2 years ago, 0.74 point per game average. Last year, 0.67. So not a terrible drop. And that saw him change teams, obviously going to an expansion team. So his plus minus went from plus 17 to minus 26. But his shot volume is decent, 2.68 shots per game. Power play's okay, could be better, 0.22 power play points per game. Hits a little bit, 0.87 hits per game, but nothing crazy there. He did have 27 goals in 74 games, 0.36 goals per game, and that was up from a 0.32. So he does look like he's going to be a low 30 goal scorer if you're looking for Jared McCann on the waiver wire. Thoughts on getting Markstrom first pick in the 4th and Demko first pick in the 6th? You just stole two of the best goalies, Matt. So yeah, good luck. Or you don't need luck at that point. You're gonna own your goaltending categories. At that point, if I got those two guys, I wouldn't even draft a third goalie. How much time do I think Sanderson will get? That's a good question. I would expect him. Let me just look at their depth chart because I know they have Nick Holden. I know they have Zub. And I know they have Shabbat. I like Shabbat this year. I like Shabbat every year, but I feel like it's gonna have to happen at some point. When he's playing 30 minutes a game, he's gonna get stats. So right now, just looking at sendschirp.ca for line combos. So if you don't like these, just yell at them. Thomas Shabbat, Travis Hamonic, Eric Brandstrom, Artem Zub, and then Sanderson and Zaitsev. I could definitely see Sanderson taking over for Brandstrom on the second pair. But, I mean, I haven't watched Brandstrom terribly closely. I just know he hasn't become what he was supposed to become when they tried to target him in that trade. I would hope Sanderson gets second pair minutes, but I still don't think that's fantasy relevant. And that's so the injury today that came out. Cam Talbot's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a broken rib. Normally, I would jump to my draft, which is coming up. I have 2 drafts tomorrow, and I would normally grab Anton Forsberg because he's a very good goalie and he's now the number 1. But looking at that D core, it's not promising for goaltending and defensive numbers. The offense is a lot you can pick from in terms of, Formanton, Pinto, Joseph are on the third line. You could even find some value there. Pinto is a pretty underrated player. The top 6 is obviously very good, but the defense is a little bit problematic. Anton Forsberg would be the number 1 pickup today. Yep. And I had him last year. He's a very good goalie. Just I don't like the D. Dang, there's a ton of questions here. I did not expect this many of you to be joining in, so let me just try to go a little bit faster. Standard Cat League, head-to-head, RNH or Rob Thomas? I like Thomas in general. He just got paid, though, so there may be a money bags situation going on there. And I think there's a logjam in the top 9. So I'd go RNH. He's dual eligible center left wing, and he's getting power play exposure on one of the best power plays of all time. So RNH is very undervalued. What should be a realistic expectation for Pettersson this season if he stays healthy? Point per game is what I'm hoping for. I don't think he's been very close twice. I don't think he's gone over a point per game. And in terms of his overall point numbers, I think his highest point total is like 68 or 69 because he's missed some games in those seasons, and some of the seasons were cut short. But a point per game is what you're looking for. 40 goals would be incredible. You're looking for a minimum of 30 out of Pettersson with some power play coverage. Type of videos I'm planning when the season starts. So I'm wondering if anybody would care about daily fantasy and nightly, betting picks. If you're into sports betting, I haven't really gauged interest. So if you're interested, leave a comment and we'll try to manage that. But like I said before, I'm looking for typically a Sunday video, getting you prepared for the week ahead in terms of schedule and potential trends from the previous week. I'm looking at a middle of the week, maybe a live stream Q&A type of thing, or maybe if something sticks out, some unique cases happen, somebody gets hurt, whatever, I can address that in the middle of the week. And then typically a Friday video is what I'm hoping for, to try to get you through the weekend, because a lot of times you're in a tight battle with a head-to-head guy and you need that extra bump over the weekend to try to get you there. And usually there are some teams that play Saturday, Sunday back-to-backs or Friday, Saturday back-to-backs, so we can cover that on Friday as well. Yeah, Talbot out 5 to 7 weeks, broken rib. Anton season, it should be, but again with that D, I don't know. I am high on JT Miller. I think that there's going to be natural regression from his number. He was 1.2 points per game last year. I would expect him to be closer to a point per game, and not as high. But yeah, he covers a lot of categories. He's dual position eligible. He gets some hits. He gets a ton of power play points, which was a little bit surprising to me. Not that he's getting power play points, but he was, I think, top 15 in terms of power play points per game. Ended up waiting on goalie a bit too long in 2 different leagues. Ended up with Elvis as G2, G3. That's fine as a G2. And Elvis, let me bring this up because I have it up right now. So I will scroll down and pull this full screen. So if you go, this is the goaltending metrics dashboard. So this blue number is starts. So it's sorted by starts. So these are the 60 starters. These guys up here, I've mentioned this in a previous video. These are the 50 starters. 50 games is this line to this line. If you look at Merzlikins, the save percentage was above average, so 907. It was above the 904 average, and then he got a ton of starts. He played 59 games. Now, Korpisalo was hurt, but I think he's shown that he is the number one. If Korpisalo comes out and plays a couple bad games, they're going to continue to give Merzlikins the numbers. And I think his save percentage number could take a bounce from this. I think he was relatively good, and they did have Werenski missed time last year. They had some injuries on the back end, and then they just added Gabranson. So I think the D is going to be slightly improved. So that's not a terrible option with your G2. This is why I'm high on Grubauer, because this is horrible. 889 is a save percentage, but if you look at his starts, 55 games, and then if you look at the team defense, they're fourth best last year in team defense. They did lose Giordano, but I don't think they're that much worse. I think they're still a top 15 defense, and he can't possibly be this bad again next year. So I've gotten some weird looks from people mentioning Grubauer, but that's why he can't possibly be this bad again. He's a 920 goalie every other season he's played, and 55 games. That's why I picked him up off the waiver wire. And then this is Igor Shesterkin. So he doesn't play a ton of games. He might get more this year. Halak looks pretty good as a backup, but pretty incredible stuff from Shesterkin. But we'll get back to the chat. Actually, let me just move that over because I am using that while I'm doing this. What the heck happened? This. So we'll move that over so I can look stuff up and still talk to you guys. So I have about 7 minutes left, and then I've got to get going and get on with some consulting work. Who would you pick up as your fourth D in head-to-head points league? No plus minus. Pionk, Morrissey, Lindholm, or Barry? Ekblad, Letang, Burns. So you have some good power play guys. Pionk does get some hits. I think he's around 2 hits a game. And I don't think Pionk is going to get the power play time. If I'm a betting guy, I'm saying Morrissey's going to get it. But because you have 3 really good power play guys, you might want to just go with Pionk for the hits. The point totals weren't crazy. 0.44 points per game last year. 3 goals, nothing crazy there. The shots aren't really 1.8 shots per game. And then, what's up?
Do you need some gum?
I don't need gum.
Yes, you do.
Okay, then.
Eat it.
Go put pants on. That was my son, the one who can talk. And, yeah, so Pionk, 2.4 hits per game last year, 2.5 the year before that, and 1.18 blocks. So if you want some coverage for those categories, then he would be the guy to go to. I do like Morrissey, and Morrissey had a better year last year, so that is something to keep in mind. In terms of fantasy production, he was ranked a little bit higher at the end of the year. Favorite beverage when enjoying an evening of hockey? So I drink 1 beer a night when I'm watching the Rangers, and lately it's been Workhorse West Coast IPA. It is very nice. But yeah, I try not to get hammered every night because that's obviously bad. But yeah, do I like Kessel? Yeah, I like him if he's playing with Jack Eichel, and if he's in the top 6 basically. And I don't think he'd be on the second line because that's the Carlson Smith Marchessault line. So if he's playing with Eichel, I like him. If he's on the third line, I don't. Do I feel Florida players will regress? I do. Yeah. I think, and I've said this a couple times in other videos or things that we've done. I think Huberdeau is like a field commander or like a quarterback out there. I think he drives a lot of that offense. I think he might actually impact Barkov's production a little bit, Barkov's still a great player. He's probably worth your second-round pick. But some of the depth guys, again, they don't have Duclair. He's out for, I think, at least half the season. And then on top of that, they lost Huberdeau. They bring in Tkachuk, who is good, but Tkachuk just put up an absolute contract year for the ages. I mean, if you look at Matthew Tkachuk, and I've been fading him a lot because of the massive amount of regression that should be coming in, and the fact that he doesn't get the hits coverage that Brady does. So Brady is like a 3 hits per game guy, and Matthew's like a 1 hit per game guy. But if you look at the goal production, he's been close-ish. He's still a goal scorer, but he had 42 goals last year in 82 games. That was about double the production he had the previous season. So 0.28 goal per game, 0.51 last year. Then if you look at his 5-year average for point per game, 0.92 is it's ownable for sure. That's very good. Is it a first rounder? Probably not for me. And then last year he overproduced by 0.35 points per game. So he had a 1.26 point per game average, and that was with his, the line mates that he found chemistry with and everything else. Now he's got a lot of change coming his way. 3 shots a game is good. That will likely hold up. The plus minus won't. He was plus 57 last year. I don't see that again, despite the fact that Florida is a good team to mine plus minus out of. 0.35 on the power play. That could hold up because he's probably the net front guy. But yeah, I think Huberdeau is the quarterback of that offense, and I do think that they regress a little bit without him. I think they're just going to have to rely on their goaltending to be a little bit better than what you're typically getting from Bobrovsky at .913 save percentage. And if they can get .920 out of both of their goalies, then they'll be fine. Sharangovich on the Devils, yeah, he's going to be in that video that I'm hopefully working on tomorrow. I think I mentioned him. If I didn't mention him, he was circled on my notes. So yeah, Sharangovich, mid-20s goal scorer, probably around 50 points. And if he's going to be playing in that top 6, that's value because you're either going to get him with Hughes or Heischer. Even Eric Halla looks pretty decent as a third-line center for them. So there will be offense to be had in New Jersey. I just don't know about their goaltending. Although Vanacek looked okay in preseason, but I don't think he had a good year last year. Favorite players to draft 10th in a 12-man league. Who would be considered my second pick? So last year I was in a 10-guy league, and I was 9th. And I drafted Rantanen and Makar. So I drafted Rantanen at 9 and Makar at 12. You're not going to get Makar there, but I'd probably do the same type of thing. Even in a 12-team league, I'd probably go Rantanen for dual-eligible center right wing, and then probably a defenseman, Hedman, or Yossi with the next pick. Is there a can't-cut list for your league? I prefer to avoid players on the can't-cut list. I think there is, but I think it's just your first or second-round picks. I don't think it's anything crazy. Jack Quinn, if you want my thoughts, check out the rookies video, the most recent edited video that I did. So I've done 2 live streams yesterday, but that was Friday or Saturday. I did the rookies video, and he was on there. There's some nice analysis on Jack Quinn, and he seems to be lighting it up in preseason for what that's worth. Rossi, line 2, PP1, Minnesota. Is he really line 2? Because they have Eriksson Ek, and Eriksson Ek is very good as well, and he had a really good year last year. So Hartman's their first center, and then I thought it was Eriksson Ek at number 2, and then you have Freddie Gaudreau, and then Tyson Jost. So I just think there's a little bit of a logjam for center, but they definitely need him because of their cap situation. All right, I'm going to go rapid fire and try to answer these all very quickly. I have to go. Tage Thompson, I covered him earlier. I do think there will be regression. Kalen Addison, I don't think he stays on PP1. I think they like Spurgeon there, but I do think he's a very good offensive defenseman. Did talk about Tage Thompson if you want to rewind. I I still don't think you should draft for your first week, but still piss me off. We'll talk about that in the group. Great content. Thank you. Appreciate it. Slovakia. That's awesome. Yeah, my kid. I have 2 kids crying in the background. It's chaos. That's why I have to go. The little one's crying right above me, and my bigger one is down here with me. Just offered me some gum. Do we know who is centering Line and Goudreau? That's one of my kids throwing stuff down the stairs. Right now, I think it's Kent Johnson, but if it's Boone Jenner, then he becomes value. So keep an eye on that in terms of the last couple days of training camp. But if it's Kent Johnson, he's the guy to go to. He's got the higher offensive ceiling. If it's Jenner, he's going to get you some hits probably. He's dual eligible if I'm not mistaken, and whoever's centering those guys is somebody you want. I don't like the Devils goalies. I do think Mackenzie Blackwood is due for a bounce back, and he looked fantastic against the Rangers the other night, which was frustrating. I think Blackwood is a goalie that I would normally target as a G3. It's just I don't love their D. Their D will be excellent once they get Luke Hughes into the fold with Nemec, and they just brought over. They gave up Ty Smith. I guess that was just sort of a logjam on the left side, but Hamilton looks very good this year. But it's just a matter of I don't like Vanacek. I don't think he'll be the starter. I think Blackwood takes the net back. 7th pick in a 10-team league. Kirill, Kuch, Kane. Thoughts? Kucherov would be my take there. That's 7th. Goal scoring right wing. Kaprizov's fine there too. Kane, I'm hoping I'm hoping it's Patrick, not Evander, because you shouldn't take Evander Kane 7th overall. I do like Kuzmenko. He was just in the rookies video I did. He was my number 1 rookie. I could see him going off a little bit this year. Yeah, if Sharon Govich is playing with Hughes and Plot, that's interesting, and that increases his value too, and kind of decreases Holtz. But I think Holtz will be up on the main team this year. I think he's too good not to use him, and they need wingers. So, and then I don't know what to make of Tatar either. He should be better than what he was last year. Sorokin will probably get around 50 to 55 starts, and I think he'll be around a 920 save percentage or better. In the KHL, the story was Shesterkin versus Sorokin, and Sorokin won in the conference finals against Shesterkin, and then won the Gagarin Cup. So he could be. I don't want to call him as good as Shesterkin just because it'll make me throw up in my mouth as a Rangers fan, but he's right there. Someone took Samsonov in the 9th. I took Murray in the 10th. I think Murray's going to get the starts over Samsonov. So I think that's fine. Especially if it's, that's about where you'd want to get your G3. I hope you have 2 other goalies ahead of him. Drafted Pettersson in one of my leagues because I'm a Canucks fan and hopelessly optimistic. With Bruce Boudreau, there's a reason to be optimistic. So I like that. For sure on the sports betting, props is exactly what I'm thinking, because we can easily pick the shot props guys from last year's data and then just kind of cross-reference it with what they're doing this year. So the shot props will be probably one of the big things that I'm looking at. Will Butcher or Evan Bouchard? Bouchard. Yeah. Need to know, should I keep Kuzmenko or drop him for Jeannot, Bennett, Mangiapane, Rust, Raymond? If Rust is there, drop him for Rust. If you need hits badly, drop him for Jeannot. I would maybe drop him for Raymond, but you are getting good PP exposure with Kuzmenko. If you need hits and shots out of a center, drop him for Bennett. So it really just depends on what you need. If you're looking for straight power play coverage, then he's probably the guy. Most valued defenseman, head-to-head points league, 8-player league. It's Makar, but Yeah, I mean, and you'll probably your teams will be stacked, so I don't think you'll have a problem with D. Gudis over Pionk for the hits, absolutely. 2 more hits a game. I'm gonna have to cut it off. Somebody realized I'm using OBS. That's true. But yeah, I have a private commitment to get to. I will more than likely be doing this again. This seems to be very popular with you guys. I like being able to help you on the fly and just answer questions because it gets very difficult in the comments section on YouTube while I'm like trying to fend off 2 kids from beating me up and stuff. So yeah, this seems like a really nice way to answer some of your questions and give you some insight, use the data, and show you how to use the tools that are available in the description below this time. I actually updated the description for this video so you can find the Patreon link and get the visualizations for yourself. I also have the pick planner if you're trying to plan how your picks are going to map out given wherever you're picking at the first pick in the draft. So yeah, if you want access to any of those are available in the description. Mark Stone in the 12th is not risky at all. He'd be risky in the 4th or 5th or something like that. Logan Thompson is relevant for a little bit. As soon as he starts to suck, I would maybe pair him with Aiden Hill just to be safe if you're going there. Lehkonen is a sneaky ad with Landeskog out. I think Fantasy Puck was all over that one. Picked him up with the second to last pick. That's nice value. But yeah, thank you guys. I will be doing this again in the future, and I want to thank you all again for helping me get to 1,000. That means a lot. And this is what's that?
Robot.
Oh, that's your robot?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thanks again, guys. I will see you in the next one.
The next one?
In the next one.